Welcome to History Revealed, where we peel back the layers of time to understand the profound influences that shaped our world. Our journey today takes us back to the twilight of the Roman Empire, a sprawling colossus at the cusp of the 4th century CE. Imagine a realm stretching from the wind-swept shores of Britannia to the sun-baked deserts of North Africa. From the fertile plains of Gaul to the ancient lands of the Near East. This was not a monolithic entity, but a mosaic of cultures, languages, and crucially, an astonishing array of beliefs. At its heart, the Roman Empire was profoundly polytheistic. Gods and goddesses of the Roman pantheon, inherited and adapted from Greek and Etruscan traditions, held sway. Jupiter, Juno, Minerva, Mars, their temples dotted every city, their altars fragrant with offerings, their festivals marking the rhythm of daily life. But beyond the official state cults, a vibrant tapestry of other spiritual practices thrived. Indigenous deities from conquered lands were often syncretized, their worship integrated into the Roman system. Egyptian gods like Isis and Serapis found zealous followers, their mysteries attracting devotees across the empire. Persian Mithraism, particularly popular among soldiers, offered a disciplined path of worship in underground temples. Philosophical schools, too, offered guidance and meaning. Stoicism, Epicureanism, and Neoplatonism provided intellectual frameworks for understanding the universe and one's place within it, often coexisting alongside traditional religious observances. Cities like Rome, Alexandria, and Antioch were vibrant hubs of commerce and intellectual exchange, where diverse peoples converged, bringing their gods, their customs, and their ideas. The Forum bustled with merchants and senators, soldiers and scholars, all under the watchful gaze of numerous deities. Temples stood alongside bustling markets, bathhouses, and grand basilicas, reflecting a society where the sacred and the profane were intricately interwoven. This was a world teeming with spiritual options, a marketplace of faiths, where loyalties and beliefs were as varied as the empire's vast territories. It is into this intricate, religiously diverse landscape that our story of Emperor Constantine and the evolution of Christmas truly begins. While the Roman Empire outwardly celebrated its pantheon, beneath the surface, a different, unseen faith was quietly taking root. Amidst the grandeur of temples and the clamor of public festivals, early Christians formed a community apart. Their worship was hidden, their very existence a source of suspicion and fear for Roman authorities. Unlike the empire's established cults, Christianity demanded exclusive devotion, rejecting Roman gods and the emperor's divine status. This was not merely a differing belief, it was seen as disloyalty, an act of subversion against the state. Consequently, Christians faced intermittent yet brutal persecution. They were labeled atheists for refusing to partake in public sacrifices and accused of heinous acts by a fearful populace. In this hostile environment, public worship proved impossible. Communities gathered in the shadows, in the labyrinthine catacombs beneath cities like Rome, where the dead found rest and the living refuge for sacred rites. Private homes, too, became clandestine churches, their doors discreetly opened to a few, offering solace and spiritual sustenance away from prying eyes. Within these hidden spaces, believers shared communal meals, read from nascent scriptures, and performed the Eucharist, symbols of unity and shared hope. Their rituals were simple, profound, personal, fostering fierce solidarity. Murals adorned catacomb walls, depicting biblical scenes and symbols like the fish and anchor, silent testaments to a burgeoning spiritual world. Despite the omnipresent threat of arrest, torture, and martyrdom, the Christian faith continued its slow, inexorable spread. Its message of salvation, equality, and community resonated deeply, offering a radical alternative to the hierarchical Roman world. This unseen faith, nurtured in secrecy, was a powerful underground river, soon to burst forth and reshape the spiritual landscape of an empire. Indeed, that underground river was about to find its unexpected champion in the tumultuous political landscape of the early 4th century. The Roman Empire, far from unified, was embroiled in a power struggle known as the Tetrarchy, a system designed to stabilize imperial rule, but which frequently dissolved into civil war. Among the claimants to power was Constantine, son of Constantius Chlorus, a respected general and one of the Western Roman emperors. Upon his father's death in 306 AD, Constantine was proclaimed Augustus by his troops in Britain, setting him on a collision course with other imperial contenders. His most formidable rival in the West was Maxentius, who controlled Rome itself and much of Italy. The tension between them escalated, culminating in 312 AD, when Constantine marched his legions towards the heart of the empire. What transpired next at the Milvian Bridge just outside Rome would not only decide the fate of two emperors, but irrevocably alter the course of Western history and the future of Christianity. As Constantine's army prepared for battle, ancient accounts, most notably from Lactantius and Eusebius, describe a profound vision. The night before the decisive engagement, or perhaps at midday, Constantine reportedly saw a cross of light in the sky, emblazoned with the words, "In hoc signo vinces." In this sign, you will conquer. He was then commanded, either in a dream or by a divine voice, to inscribe a new symbol, the Chi Rho, the first two Greek letters of Christ, onto his soldiers' shields and banners. This symbol, a blend of X and P, became his sacred standard. Whether a genuine divine intervention, a shrewd political maneuver, or a combination of both, Constantine embraced this sign. With newfound conviction, Constantine led his forces into battle. The clash at the Milvian Bridge was fierce, but Maxentius's forces were ultimately routed, collapsing as they attempted to retreat across the Tiber River. Maxentius himself drowned. Constantine's victory was absolute, solidifying his claim to the Western Roman Empire. This moment, steeped in religious revelation and military triumph, marked a seismic shift. The persecuted faith, once relegated to the shadows, was now embraced by the most powerful man in the Western world, setting the stage for its dramatic ascent into the imperial mainstream. Constantine's decisive victory at the Milvian Bridge in 312 AD marked not only his ascent to sole control of the Western Roman Empire, but also ushered in a radical new era for Christianity. Building on the momentum of his proclaimed divine vision, Constantine understood the immense potential of aligning with this rapidly growing faith. However, it was not a solitary act. Early the following year, in 313 AD, Constantine met with his Eastern co-emperor Licinius in Milan. The purpose of this historic summit was to solidify their alliance and, crucially, to discuss the ongoing religious tensions across the vast empire. The result of their deliberations was a landmark piece of legislation known as the Edict of Milan. This declaration was not, as often mistakenly believed, the moment Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire. Rather, it was a proclamation of religious toleration, granting every individual the freedom to worship as they pleased. It explicitly extended this freedom to Christians, ending decades, indeed centuries, of intermittent persecution. The edict stated that no one should be denied the opportunity to give their heart to the Christian worship or whatever religion they preferred, thereby allowing individuals to practice their chosen faith without harassment or fear of imperial reprisal. Crucially, the edict also mandated the return of all confiscated Christian property, churches, cemeteries, and other assets to the Christian communities without compensation from the current holders. The edict also mandated the return of all confiscated Christian property, churches, cemeteries, and other assets to the Christian communities without compensation from the current holders. The Edict of Milan fundamentally reshaped the spiritual landscape of the Roman world. From being a clandestine, often persecuted minority, Christians were now legally recognized and protected. This opened the floodgates for the faith to spread openly, to build churches, and to organize publicly. It was a pivotal moment, transforming Christianity from an underground movement into a legitimate and increasingly influential force within the Roman state. While not yet the state religion, the edict provided the fertile ground for Christianity's eventual rise to imperial dominance, a testament to Constantine's pragmatic vision and the enduring power of faith. While not yet the state religion, the edict provided the fertile ground for Christianity's eventual rise to imperial dominance, a testament to Constantine's pragmatic vision and the enduring power of faith. While the Edict of Milan heralded a new era of freedom for Christians, it also presented the nascent church with a unique set of challenges, particularly concerning standardization. Among these was the highly contentious issue of establishing a fixed date for Christ's birth. The New Testament, surprisingly, offers no precise date, leaving early Christian communities to speculate and approximate. Various traditions existed, with some celebrating in April, others in May, and some even in January. This ambiguity fueled theological debates and posed a practical problem for a rapidly expanding faith seeking unified practices across a vast empire. The emergence of December 25th as the celebrated date for Christ's nativity is not straightforward. Historical evidence suggests its rise gained traction in the Western Roman Empire around the mid-4th century. One prominent theory links this choice to existing pagan festivals. Rome, at this time, celebrated the winter solstice with the ancient festival of Saturnalia, a week-long period of feasting and gift-giving, culminating around December 25th. Furthermore, Emperor Aurelian had established the cult of Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun, whose birthday was also celebrated on December 25th in 274 AD. This date marked the rebirth of the sun after the longest night, a powerful symbolic parallel for the birth of the light of the world. This strategic alignment likely served multiple purposes. It provided an accessible entry point for converts accustomed to existing midwinter celebrations, allowing for a smoother integration of new Christian traditions without entirely abandoning familiar festive cycles. Early church fathers, such as Sextus Julius Africanus in the 3rd century, also proposed a theological rationale, the calculus of incarnation. This theory posited that Christ was conceived on March 25th, the date of the vernal equinox, a traditional date for creation, and 9 months later his birth would naturally fall on December 25th. Thus, the selection of December 25th was a masterstroke of both theological reasoning and political pragmatism. It harmonized a deeply significant Christian event with powerful existing cultural observances, helping to cement Christianity's place within the Roman social fabric during Constantine's transformative era. This decision, though controversial for some, played a crucial role in shaping the Christmas we recognize today, intertwining ancient traditions with a new, ascendant faith. The decision to fix Christ's birth on December 25th was not merely arbitrary. It was deeply intertwined with the existing religious landscape of the Roman Empire, a landscape rich with pagan festivals. This strategic alignment offered a profound symbolic resonance and practical advantages for the burgeoning Christian faith. Chief among these was Saturnalia, an ancient Roman festival celebrating the god Saturn, held from December 17th to December 23rd. This was a time of boisterous revelry, feasting, and public banquets. Gift-giving was a significant tradition, with people exchanging small presents, often wax candles or clay figurines. Social norms were temporarily inverted, with masters serving slaves, demonstrating a unique break from typical hierarchies. Gambling, usually forbidden, was permitted, adding to the festive atmosphere of playful transgression. Businesses closed their doors, signaling a universal pause from daily toil. Streets buzzed with joyful processions and shouts of "Io Saturnalia." It was a period of unrestrained merriment, marking the darkest point of the year before the days began to lengthen once more. The spirit of Saturnalia, with its emphasis on community and celebration, provided a familiar framework upon which new Christian observances could be built, easing the transition for converts. Parallel to Saturnalia, and perhaps even more significant in its timing, was the celebration of Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun. Instituted as an official Roman cult by Emperor Aurelian in 274 AD, Sol Invictus's birthday was observed on December 25th. This date coincided with the winter solstice, symbolizing the sun's rebirth after the longest night of the year. For the Romans, the sun god represented power, light, and cosmic order, qualities that could be profoundly reinterpreted within a Christian context. The birth of Christ, the light of the world, and the Sun of Righteousness offered a powerful spiritual parallel to the physical return of the sun, lending profound symbolic weight to December 25th. Thus, the emerging Christian tradition strategically embraced and recontextualized these powerful midwinter pagan festivals. It wasn't an act of mere appropriation, but a sophisticated integration that allowed Christianity to speak in a language familiar to the Roman populace. This intertwining of ancient pagan roots with nascent Christian practices helped solidify the cultural foundation of Christmas, ensuring its widespread acceptance across the vast Roman Empire, and shaping its enduring customs for centuries to come. While Constantine was forging a new imperial identity for Christianity, his mother, Empress Helena, played an equally crucial, albeit different, role in solidifying the faith's earthly foundations. Born into humble circumstances, Helena embraced Christianity later in life, after her son's conversion, becoming a fervent and influential devotee. Her profound piety led her to undertake a momentous journey to the Holy Land between 326 and 328 AD. A pilgrimage that would indelibly shape Christian topography and imperial patronage. Helena's quest was driven by a deep desire to locate and venerate the sites central to Christ's life, death, and resurrection. With imperial resources at her disposal, she meticulously sought out these sacred places, guided by local traditions and the emerging Christian communities. Her actions transformed mere locations into hallowed ground, imbued with historical and spiritual significance. Perhaps her most famous contribution was the identification of the true cross and the construction of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. This magnificent basilica, commissioned by Constantine but spearheaded by Helena, marked what was believed to be Golgotha and Christ's tomb. Similarly, she is credited with establishing the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, built over the grotto traditionally identified as Christ's birthplace. These grand basilicas, adorned with elegant mosaics and rich decorations, became powerful symbols of the empire's new spiritual allegiance, integrating Christian stories deeply into the imperial consciousness and leaving an architectural legacy that endures to this day. Helena, through her unwavering faith and imperial backing, elevated Christianity from a persecuted sect to a globally recognized religion with tangible, sacred anchors in the very land of its origin. With imperial backing, Christianity's presence became tangible. Yet the celebration of Christ's birth, what we now know as Christmas, did not instantly materialize into a universally recognized festive holiday. For centuries, the precise date of Jesus' birth remained a matter of scholarly debate and regional variation. Early Christians focused more on the theological significance of the Incarnation and the Paschal mystery, Christ's death and resurrection, rather than the specific anniversary of his nativity. Indeed, many early Christian writers saw celebrating birthdays as a pagan custom. However, by the mid-4th century, the adoption of December 25th as the date for Christ's birth began to gain traction, particularly in the Western Roman Empire. The earliest definitive evidence for this date comes from the chronography of 354, specifically the Philocalian calendar, which explicitly lists December 25th as Natus Christus in Bethlehem, Judea, Christ born in Bethlehem of Judea. This was not an isolated decree, but a growing consensus, likely influenced by the Roman festival of Sol Invictus and Saturnalia, allowing for a strategic Christianization of existing winter solstice celebrations. Early Christmas customs, therefore, were far removed from the elaborate festivities of later eras. These were often modest, solemn observances. Communities would gather for special liturgical services, focusing on scripture readings from the Gospels pertaining to the Nativity. Homilies would expound upon the mystery of the Incarnation, the divine taking on human flesh. There was an emphasis on prayer, reflection, and communal worship, rather than gift-giving or elaborate decorations. Across the empire, particularly in the emerging Christian centers like Rome, Antioch, and Jerusalem, these nascent celebrations slowly took root. In the Eastern Empire, the Feast of the Epiphany on January 6th often held greater significance, commemorating not just the birth, but also the baptism of Christ and the adoration of the Magi. It took many more centuries for these distinct traditions to fully converge, and for a unified, widely celebrated Christmas to emerge, characterized by the joyful cultural traditions we recognize today. Constantine's era provided the fertile ground, but the tree of Christmas itself would continue to grow and branch out for generations to come. While Constantine's era fostered the initial spread and acceptance of Christianity, solidifying its presence within the empire, the exact nature of Christ and the theological implications of his birth became subjects of intense intellectual struggle. The early church was not a monolithic entity. Various schools of thought wrestled with profound questions, often leading to fierce debates that shaped core doctrines. One of the most significant was the Arian controversy, which challenged the divinity of Christ. Arius, a presbyter from Alexandria, argued that Jesus, though divine, was created by God the Father, and thus subordinate, not co-eternal. This perspective had direct implications for understanding the Incarnation, and by extension, the significance of the Nativity. If Christ was a created being, his birth, while important, held a different theological weight than if he was fully divine. These disputes were not abstract academic exercises, but fundamental to Christian identity and salvation. Councils such as the seminal Council of Nicaea in 325 CE, convened by Constantine himself, were called to resolve these dogmatic conflicts. At Nicaea, the bishops vehemently debated the relationship between God the Father and God the Son, ultimately leading to the formulation of the Nicene Creed, which asserted Christ's co-eternality and co-equality with the Father, proclaiming him God from God, light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made, consubstantial with the Father. This declaration profoundly affirmed the divine nature of the child born in Bethlehem, elevating the theological significance of the Nativity to a central pillar of faith. Beyond Nicaea, subsequent councils and influential theologians like Athanasius of Alexandria continued to refine and defend these orthodox positions, ensuring that the celebration of Christ's birth was not merely a historical commemoration, but an acknowledgement of the divine entering human history. The intellectual rigor and passionate disagreements of these early Christian scholars laid the groundwork for understanding the profound mystery of the Incarnation, an understanding that continues to resonate today. Thus, Constantine's era, while initiating a new chapter for the faith, also ignited the crucial theological battles that would define the very essence of Christianity and the meaning behind Christmas for millennia to come. How do these ancient debates, fought with such intellectual fervor, continue to shape our understanding of faith and tradition in the modern world? Constantine's reign, a period marked by profound theological upheaval and imperial transformation, bequeathed a legacy stretching far beyond the resolution of doctrinal disputes or the setting of a liturgical calendar. His most visible and enduring impact remains etched in stone and sacred space. Across the vast Roman Empire, and particularly in the East, a surge of Christian construction began, culminating in architectural marvels that redefined the religious landscape. Think of the original Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, commissioned by Constantine and his mother Helena, a site built over what was believed to be Christ's tomb and crucifixion site. Think of the original Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, commissioned by Constantine and his mother Helena, a site built over what was believed to be Christ's tomb and crucifixion site. Or the grand basilicas of Rome, like old St. Peter's, erected on the Vatican Hill, transforming a pagan necropolis into the spiritual heart of Western Christianity. These structures were not mere buildings. They were physical manifestations of a new imperial identity, monuments to the Christian faith that Constantine had embraced and elevated. Their grandeur and scale were unprecedented for Christian worship, moving the faithful from hidden catacombs into public, awe-inspiring spaces designed to accommodate vast congregations and project imperial power. Beyond the bricks and mortar, Constantine's legacy solidified Christianity's institutional framework. He fostered synods, financially supported the clergy, and integrated Christian principles into Roman law, fundamentally altering the social and political fabric of the empire. His actions paved the way for Christianity to become the dominant religion, a shift that would ultimately shape European civilization for over a millennium. Even today, the echoes of his era resonate. The architectural blueprints of his basilicas influenced countless churches built across continents. The theological tenets solidified in his sponsored councils remain foundational creeds for millions. The very idea of a Christian emperor intertwining temporal power with spiritual authority traces its roots directly to his reign. As we reflect on Constantine's multifaceted influence, from battlefields to council halls, from the setting of Christmas to the construction of sacred sites, we are left with a powerful question. How much of what we understand as Christianity, its traditions, its institutions, and even its sacred calendar, is a direct result of one emperor's vision and ambition? And in what ways does this ancient legacy continue to shape our modern world, often in ways we rarely acknowledge?